When I was a young kid, back home, there was only three things that really matter. It was politics, religion, and hockey. And for me, hockey came first. You grew up thinking about hockey all day and played hockey all day when you could. And in those days, you did not want to play for any other team but the Montreal Canadiens.
A strapping 6'3", 210-pound blue liner, Serge Savard stuck to his goal, and in 1967 made it onto the ice at the Montreal Forum with his boyhood hero.
It was a great thrill, especially playing with Jean Beliveau on the same ice, traveling with him to the airport because he was living in my hometown in Longueuil. Sure, it was a great thrill, and winning the Stanley Cup the first year. On top of that, you can't ask much more.
But it got even better. The following season, the Stanley Cup stayed in Montreal, and Savard was named the playoffs' most valuable player. But 2 seasons later, serious injuries would plague the Russian defenseman.
Well, first time I broke my legs in 5 different places, and I had 3 operations in the same week. So a lot of people said at that time that when my career was in danger, but I never crossed my mind that my career was in danger. When I came back after all those injuries, I think I became a more defensive, a more stay-home defenseman, and I really enjoy it. I played with Larry most of my career after he came with us, and I say, you go ahead, don't worry about what's happening in the back.
I played 7 years with Serge, and I made a lot of mistakes when we first started playing together, but Serge always covered up for me.
The big three were the essence of the Montreal dynasty, the so-called big three on defense. There was Savard, Larry Robinson, and Guy Lapointe. And those three held the whole defense together. And it was Serge Savard who held those three together.
He was also a true leader for the Canadiens. He was the defenseman that the Scotty Bowman was looking for when the game was on the line, when the series was on the line, when the championships was on the line.
He had a lot of endurance. He could play 40 minutes in a game, but I think it was because of the way he didn't use any unnecessary energy. He would only make rushes at times when he felt there was a real opportunity to go with the puck. His strong suit, though, was how he played pretty well errorless defense.
He'd always make that little spin move, and he'd come into the corner and he'd suck 2 guys onto him, then he'd make a little spin move, and I knew that, and I'd start to skate across, and he'd just dish it off to me, and then I'd take off up the ice.
The checker knew that he would do his spin. They knew in which direction he would spin, and it was as if Serge, wanted it that way. He would be like the fastball pitcher against the fastball hitter and saying, "You know what it's going to be? Now hit it."
When I did the spinorama, I was not skating. I was standing still at the blue line, and an opponent would come to you, and I would spin real quick, and it's timing, and the other guy didn't have time to turn. Players knew I was going to do it, and they couldn't do it, and they couldn't catch me.
I've never ever seen a guy like Serge before. Never got nervous about anything, and just sit there, have everything analyzed, and just knew exactly what to do.
I don't think the word panic exists on his vocabulary.
And he was able to keep that kind of composure even when the play or the stakes went higher. And that's what really stood out to me about Serge, his ability to stay on course while things were flying out of control around him. He got steadier and stronger and bigger and better.
I was always confident of winning. For me, losing was not acceptable. And when you're in the middle of the action, then you don't think about those things. You don't think about losing. You just think about winning. Most fun in the game is winning, and nobody can achieve that on their own. If you play for a team and you break all the records and the team doesn't win, it's no fun.
But the team did win. Savard would raise the Stanley Cup 8 times as a player and twice as the Canadiens' general manager.